Hello and welcome to the program Inspire Children Imprinting Generations. My name is Memory and I'm your host. Remember, every week we gather here, we sit, we talk about children, talk about how we can build their lives, talk about the challenges they face, talk about the opportunities that we have to make an impact and to imprint the next generation. Like I always say, remember, one child today, in the next years, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 20, they are adults. They will be the responsible people leading nations, leading countries, leading departments. But guess what? The efforts, the things that we choose to do or not to do have got an impact in the next generation. For the past weeks, we've been talking about so many of the challenges that our dear children go through, from abuse to violence, from emotional challenges to incest. We've talked about that. But today we want to take a journey and look at child trauma. We want to understand that when children experience adverse situations, what is the trauma that manifests in them? How does it manifest? What do we see when a child goes through challenges, and how do we help them? And we want to have that critical conversation today. And to help us to do that, we have got Hannah in the house. She's an expert, a social worker. She has worked within the region. And I believe your knowledge today will impact your home, will impact your family, and will impact every child within our country. Welcome to the program, Hannah. It's good to have you here.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand you're a social worker, and I think we have had a journey of working with children and families.
Correct.
And what we want to talk about today, it's something that you're passionate about, and not only passionate, something that you've seen. And like I mentioned, most of our children have gone through trauma one way or the other, either through abuse, through exposure to violence, grief, and things like that. So today we want our viewers to understand what is child trauma and how it manifests, how we're able to see it, and probably are going to look at how best we can help our children together as a community, as a society. And so maybe just for a start, for a starting point, you can just give us an overview of issues around child trauma. What is it that is happening around us? What are the things that we are seeing in these modern times? And I think that will give us a good footing.
All right.
Yes.
First of all, it's really nice to be here. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Child trauma is something that is underrated, especially in our community, in the African community.
Yeah.
To give a general overview of what it really means is simply child trauma is a distressing or it's a disturbing experience that a child experiences simply within the house or within the community. So it's basically something distressing or disturbing that a child experiences, children under the age of 18. And then that showing an effect on their development.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is what a child trauma is.
Yeah. So we're saying a child is going through a negative experience.
Correct.
Whether it's a challenge, like what you're saying, and it really affects them. There are different kinds of myths when it comes to that. I've often had people, when they probably are involved in gender-based violence or marital conflicts, they just say, what, children are young, it will not affect them. What would be your comment on that? When people see children going through experience, they just assume they are just, they're
like
just
an
items.
object.
They're just object.
Yeah.
What is happening to them, to everyone else, is no effect on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it's a big mistake because children, they observe everything that happens around them. They listen, they see, they will actually reflect.
Yeah.
And you will see the manifestation of what you have actually put in them. They're basically like whiteboards.
Yes.
Whatever they see, whatever they, you know what I mean?
They're taking it in.
They're taking it in,
absorbing
and they're
everything.
being soaked in it. So whatever you actually put on them, it not only manifests in their childhood, but later on in their adulthood as well, if not treated and if not looked after.
Yeah. So you're saying the scars that the children can probably, I can say, adapt or take from adults. They have a tendency of manifesting even in their later life.
Yes.
We're going to talk more about that. Talk to me about something which you have just started to delve into.
Okay.
So it means trauma can manifest in little babies, in children.
It does.
Smaller children.
It does.
Yeah. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. So It actually it actually manifests differently in different age groups. It's different on teenagers, it's different on infants, it's different on toddlers. For example, if we could actually talk about manifestation of trauma on a toddler, we could say that a child could show different characters if they're being neglected, if they're being abused, but they can't actually verbalize it. So it manifests in their behavior, and then maybe in some learning difficulties. Maybe if moms are like me and if they like to teach their kids at home, I'm a mom of one. I have a son who's almost 3 years old. So with the time that I get, I make sure that I actually observe his behavior so that I know what's really happening around him when I'm away. So in that regulation, you will be able to understand what's really happening. And it's really that easy. You just need to study these children. And then it manifests. They might be crying. They might be showing different emotions that you are not familiar with in their existence. They might be refusing to eat. They might be even you might actually see physical symptoms, like maybe some issues in their bowels and in their intestines, where issues with digestion and metabolism effects and things like that. So
someone mentioned that taking care of children is a full-time job.
It is,
and which really needs high dedication and commitment.
Correct. And
from what you're saying there, the ability to track, to say, okay, my child, there are changes that have taken place, becomes critical in being able to pick if they've gone through a very negative experience that they are facing challenges with. Talk more about the continuous crying. In our culture sometimes people can have myths and they just say this child is just crying for no reason. Can you talk more about some of the myths that are surrounding children that causes people not to see and to pick some of the challenges that children would have gone through?
Yes. As parents and as caregivers, we love our children, and we love children in general because they know nothing. All they know is playing, and they're just full of love. And the best way that we can actually portray that love is really by studying them. So we need to study, as I said and mentioned earlier, crying babies or toddlers who are showing a lot of aggression towards others, or who are just breaking things. Kids who are actually showing some different behaviors. Maybe if they're actually being over nice. You know what I mean? Over giving, over sharing, begging others to be their friends, sharing their food. Or, there are some characters that you observe and you say, this is not normal.
It's extreme.
It's too much and it's extreme. Why would you be that selfless? You have to be kind, but why are you selfless? It's loss of self-esteem. It's loss of feeling content, or, you know what I mean? So basically, when you study them, and when it manifests, the best thing you do is actually intervene as soon as you can, because it's something that could heal. So as you said, all you have to do is notice. If the baby is crying for a long time, it means something. You can't just say, I'll give my baby food and then he'll be full and he'll stop crying. Because clothing them and feeding them is not the only basic need that you can provide for children. The biggest thing that you can provide for them is a healthy mindset and a good mental health. And you can only do that by really studying them. We need to study them. We need to study their patterns. What do they do when they wake up? Are they free? Do they feel like they have choices? Do they feel like they have control over their life and the things around them? What is their interaction with other relatives or family members? Do they sleep well? Even when they're sleeping, do they make funny noises like crying or screaming in their sleep? When they eat, how do they eat? In every situation and every observation really matters. When you do that, you'll be able to understand them.
So, there are so many things into this thing, and I know it's one of the root causes of some of the challenges that we do face later on with our children. We'll come back to that, Hannah, soon after the break. Viewers, don't go away. We are talking about child trauma. Kuti tunoona sei kuti mwana we ari kushungurudzika anditi ari kunetseka. This is what we're talking about. See you after the break. Hello, welcome to the program. We are still continuing with our conversation for today, looking at childhood trauma. We want to understand what it is and how we are able to pick and notice, and at the end of the day do something about it. So Hannah, when we went on break, we were talking about just trying to get a general understanding of what is childhood trauma. So what could be some of the causes of traumas that children go through? What contributes to these things?
Okay, so there are different causes of trauma. It could be abuse, emotional, physical, or sexual abuse. It could be neglect, being neglected physically and emotionally. It could be exposure, like I said earlier, to any form of violence, domestic violence, or witnessing violence outside in their community. It could be divorce of parents, their parents being separated or divorced. It could be loss of a close caregiver, close friend, loss of anything, grief. It could be the presence of someone with mental health issues or substance abuse in their presence. So there's so many of them that we could list them. We can never really actually write down and say this could be because there's so many things that could expose a child. We just need to make sure that we create a safe space for them and a clean environment for them.
It's what you're talking about is something that is so critical. I'm reminded at one time of a story that was shared of a child. I think the child was less than 3 years old, and one morning a child just started to cry continuously, non-stop. Around 2 years or so, towards 3 they would cry continuously, non-stop, and to one adult it was just a baby cry. And if we sleep the baby, rock the baby, they would just sleep away, whatever it is. But the crying was continuous. But to an empowered parent, they felt, the way your baby is crying, you need to get to the hospital. And the good thing is that parent was able to listen. But upon arrival and all the medical examinations, they realized that the 2-year-old baby had been raped.
Wow.
So from what you're saying, it becomes very important to be able to notice, to pick, and not to overgeneralize things. Because I think people have a tendency of overgeneralizing.
Not only overgeneralizing, but really like underestimating the side effects of trauma. I think that's also the big problem within our community, in the African community. I think we just think that if we send our kids to school, if we dress them up, if we feed them, if they sleep in a warm bed, it's enough for them. But it's more than that.
It's more than
as much as we underestimate it, we actually are facing the consequences of these neglects.
I know you once talked about the signs, but I want you to go deeper. What are some of the signs? Maybe someone says, I'm not sure if my child, there's nothing they can see really from outside. Are there some telltale signs, some red flags that our families and communities can be able to pick and say, I think there's a red flag there, there's a red flag there? Because sometimes some children don't talk about it, or some of the things are never shared. How do they see the red flags or the signs that this child must have gone through one trauma or some kind?
I would say for babies, you would actually know if they're not sleeping well. Like children, if it's not something physical that makes them uncomfortable, then it's definitely something that they're uncomfortable with, which is related to the surrounding that is not comfortable for them. If it's not physical, if it's not illness, then immediately we have to take it to the other side. We could also take it to a spiritual side. It doesn't mean that it can't go parallelly. These things, they go together. We can give a psychosocial support to these children, like all of it together for their well-being. For toddlers, as I mentioned earlier, you might actually want them, you might want them to verbalize, which they don't, but they can't verbalize it, but they will try to communicate with you as much as they can of things that is not comfortable when you're not around, or even when you're around. If they're yelled at, or if they've been touched, or if they've been beaten, they would actually be able, if they're safe around their parent and their caregiver, when you're around, they'll find their way of addressing it. They'll find their way of showing it to you. This is why I always say there's no clear guideline to say that my child could actually show me that he's being traumatized this way or that way. it's your connection
Yeah.
that will be able to manifest that to you.
Yeah.
You can actually track it because we all have different connections with our children.
Yes.
We are different parents and we have different ways of parenting
So
our kids.
to invest in that connection that
You have to invest in that
I'm liking
connection.
what you're saying, Hannah, about the fact that usually toddlers, there is a way in which they try to communicate.
Always.
And what are some of the, I want to talk about later, but talk about what are some of the challenges, hindrances when usually children come, they tell you somebody touched my bum or my private part. They say it in ways that are isolated. Yeah. What are some of the challenges that happen there when that communication first hits? Because the first time children always say something. Can you talk more about that?
Okay, if they're comfortable around you, if a child is comfortable around me, there's no way that child will not be able to form sentences and words together to express that or to address that. But if you're not feeling comfortable, or if you don't feel safe to expose that information that has happened to you, for example, if I'm a very strict parent, overly strict, and I'm not open to communicate with my children will be facing different things outside which they cannot come back to tell me, even in our own household where we're staying together. So I think this also comes to the difficulties may come from the parents in how we're actually relating with our children. If we create an open space to communicate, they wouldn't even think about constructing formal sentences or anything. They'll just say, "Mama, I was touched on my bum. Something like that happened to me." It's as simple as
that. And it becomes important now for adults to be able to take that up, and we're going to talk about that later.
Sure.
But it becomes critical because the children have a way of expressing something that's happened to them. Thank you so much for that, Hannah. Very insightful things that you're sharing here, very important things. Viewers, don't go away. We are tracking how we can pick that our children have gone through trauma. Welcome back to the program, viewers. We are talking about child trauma and we want to understand it more. So Hannah, when we want to break, I know you shared very important things, what are some of the behavioral signs or red flags that we can see? I want you to talk especially adolescents and teenagers.
Okay.
Those are some of the areas that people really find challenges in. Yeah.
Definitely they will show anxiety. They will be always anxious and fearful. Fear of making decisions, fear of creating relationships outside, friendships, and fear of being within their society and community. You would be able to pick a child with trauma at school, definitely with how they're actually behaving. And like I said earlier, it starts with you can start noticing anxious behaviors. You can see that maybe they're aggressive and they show tantrums, or maybe they want to isolate themselves from everyone and be alone. Sometimes they could even communicate it in different ways. They might be able, they want to let it out and breathe. So you would find them going around telling people about the issues that they're seeing at home. My mom and dad are fighting. My mom and dad are fighting all night. So I was up all night trying to, stop them from killing each other. Or they would say, someone came into my room last night. So they're looking for help.
So there's a call out for help.
There's a call out for help.
Trauma. There's suffering inside, they're looking for help.
Yes.
And they can be sharing with friends, with other people.
Yeah. And then that's also a call out for help, like we said. They could show learning difficulties. For example, in class, they might not be participant or they might not be able to understand things quickly. And
so withdrawing, it's part of it as well?
Correct.
Yes. They used to be like this, and all of a sudden the graph is changing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Every year you would not see a consistent behavior or a consistent pattern or routine in their movements because they just don't know how to be. Because for these children, they're just shaped by their trauma. They're seen as how they were taught. So this actually makes them incapable of performing as a normal child.
When you're talking about that, I'm beginning to see how critical this teacher, the educators, they have an analysis that they do of their students, how it is critical and how it really marries together with child protection and child safeguarding. Because you're saying, when we look at a school tracker, that one that the teachers use, is able to tell that there's been a shift and a change in the life of a teenager, of an adolescent, which needs attention.
Definitely.
Yeah. So before we go further, what then are the long-term effects if we don't attend to the trauma that children have gone through, or we ignore it, or probably we misunderstand it? What could be the long-term effects of that?
Okay. One of the things that we could raise, it's quite broad, but the long-term effect is that the children, when they become adults, they'll be able to see the world exactly how they were shown.
Yeah.
Which is, if they were raised in a violent environment, they'll end up being fearful, or they'll end up being children who were defensive to become defensive adults. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there'll always be that, and they will be viewing the world according to what they experienced at home. If a child is being raised in a house where there's consistent violence, or in a community where there's consistent violence, definitely that child will not feel safe in that environment. So that child, when he or she becomes an adult, they'll be searching for that space, but at the end of the day, since they've not experienced healing, they will keep on attracting the same environment. They'll keep on attracting the same friends, same marriage partner, same work environment, because they're actually mimicking and they're manifesting what they have experienced.
They didn't experience healing. They were not helped.
Exactly.
So you are saying to us, some of the adults that we have today, it's a manifestation of their childhood experiences.
Exactly. Yeah, unhealed childhood wounds. Unhealed wounds, they actually manifest. You could find someone in a work environment where they're complaining of being abused by their boss.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, the other employees might not be experiencing the same thing.
Yeah.
But they're actually attracting that thing because they're not people who stand up for themselves, who have boundaries. They feel like they have to overwork themselves, overshare information about themselves to gain validation all the time, because they want to be able to rewrite what they've experienced in the past, but they don't know how to do it. They never found time to reflect on their emotions. And the thing is that in this fast-paced world, we're always busy. We go to school, we graduate, we get a job, we get married, and we have children.
Yeah.
But our parents have never taught us to really regulate our emotions and to take time with ourselves to say, who am I? Because our identity is shaped by our parents and their caregivers. Our family is the first institution that we join. So it's a very big deal. When we think about it, we cannot be mad at children and say, hey, this kid is bad, he's not listening to me, or this teenager is bad.
So you're saying sometimes people, we go on to label our children, they're like this, without helping.
Without helping. We just say it's defiance.
Yeah, without looking at what could have caused this particular behavior. I know you have talked about the angle where our children, they can go that extreme of cooperating with some of the traumas. But there is also this angle I want you to tackle, where people can then go the extremes of they go the opposite extreme of what they experienced. Either they become bullies, high bullies, even in the workplace. Can you talk more about that?
Sure.
These are unresolved issues in adult life. Can they be that?
Sure. So the thing is, we have different ways of exercising healing. Sometimes we might recognize that, okay, when I was a child, I was abused emotionally or physically, or let's say sexually. So you might find a girl who's always really rough and angry when she sees boys and men. You get me? Or you might want to experience something better, so you want to rewrite that wrong in your childhood, so you end up being overly nice with no standards and with no values in your life. So these are the two extremes that you could actually go to.
Deep, very deep inside, Time is not on our side, Hannah, but I believe these things we are sharing are very critical. And we look forward to having another episode. We'll continue on this discussion because the journey is long and we really need to shape our children by helping them to heal and to recover. Viewers, thank you for joining us today on Inspire Children. Guess what? Children need to experience healing. We cannot brush everything aside. We have to attend to the wounds so that we impact the next generation and their future. See you again on the program. Goodbye.